Hey everybody, welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast that endorses young Willy Wonka on his journey to meet those wacky Oompa Loompas and figure out what he does later in the story. I don't know, what's that new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie about? It's like
I don't know.
handsome young Willy Wonka.
I don't know. All I know is it's Timothy Chalamet as Willy Wonka, and
Yeah.
yeah, he's doing his thing. Apparently, lots of people don't like it.
Is it out? I saw like a clip
Uh,
of the Oompa Loompa trailer thing.
it's not out, but like people were talking about it and saying like, yeah, this trailer looks horrible. Like he was doing like a bunch of weird faces and stuff that definitely aren't why people watch a Timothy Chalamet movie.
See, I needed the Willy Wonka origin story movie. I'm glad they made it because it's
Oh
something that I've
God.
been wanting. It's like, what? Who was he? Who was he before? Even though they already did that kind of in the Johnny Depp movie. Um, did you like the Johnny Depp movie? Let's just completely ignore the fact that we're a video game podcast. Oh, and
Yeah.
we didn't even introduce
Yeah.
ourselves.
No,
I'm
screw
Matt,
the
aka Matt
intros. You
Fun
know who
Dude.
we are. I'm James,
Okay.
aka James04E. You already know.
Now,
We've
where
been
do
here
you
before.
stand on the Wonka debate? Old or
Uh,
new?
I thought the Johnny Depp one was okay.
Yeah, I think
Um, it's
I
been
mean
a really long time.
definitively Gene Wilder is a better movie, but
Yeah.
I can enjoy the Johnny Depp one. It has the same energy as like Jim Carrey Grinch, where I like it. It's not that good.
Hmm.
Um I think our generation has nostalgia for these movies and actually enjoys them, and it's gonna be like a prequel, like a Star Wars prequel, where now everyone's like, "Oh, they're actually the best movies."
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. It's yeah. There's a lot of Willy Wonka movies. I mean, so like this is what the third now, or is it the fourth?
There's the big two is like the Gene Wilder like version and the Johnny Depp version. There may be animated and or other versions as well.
What is the origin of the story? Now that I actually think about it, was it originally a
It's a
movie or like
book.
it was a
It's
book? Okay.
Roald Dahl,
Okay, actually, yeah. Okay,
Roald
now I
Dahl.
do
Yeah,
remember the book. We never read it in like high school or anything, surprisingly, but I do vaguely remember there being a book.
yeah. It's more like a
I think I
middle
saw it in a
school,
library.
elementary book. He did Matilda as well.
Yeah, you would think it's
Um,
a middle school elementary book, but then the children start dying.
he also did BFG, the big beep giant, the big friendly
Man,
giant, which they made into a film that no one saw.
oh my
The
god,
BFG.
the big flipping giant.
Dun, dun, dun. The BFG.
Oh my god, the movie was
It's
in
not even Duke Nukem.
2016.
That's a Doom.
Oh my god, why
Um,
why was he so ugly?
that's what he looks like. He's a big F giant. I was trying not to swear, and I accidentally swore anyway.
So like
Um,
I understand like he's supposed to be ugly, but it's like a different kind of ugly. Like
he
man,
look. Yeah, he looks like the grandpa. The illustration version, he looks like the grandpa from Rugrats. Tommy's grandpa. The I'm looking at a picture of the film though,
yeah, I
and
liked how he looked in like
yikes.
the book cover and stuff. In the film, it's just sheesh, it looks uncanny.
So this is another Disney banger that no one saw of the BFG, and also the friendly dinosaur. What was it called? No, the good dinosaur. Good dinosaur.
I don't know.
Yeah, the good dinosaur.
The good
Um,
dinosaur as
the
opposed to the
good
bad one,
dinosaur. Do you remember when the
the
good
mediocre
dinosaur came out?
dinosaur.
Do you happen to remember what other movie was airing alongside of it or in
Not
box
really.
offices?
I don't really remember the good dinosaur. I'm not gonna lie.
It was this little indie film called Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Damn.
Came out alongside of it, and you know what? People went to see that new Star Wars movie instead of A Good Dinosaur.
This movie
It
had a
never had a
300
chance.
million budget.
Oh man.
Oh no. The Google messed up. It's 175 to 200 million budget, and it made like 332 million.
Hmm. Which wait, BFG? Or Good
No, the
Dinosaur?
Good Dinosaur.
It probably made some money back in streaming and or like DVD sales, but like
Yeah,
no one saw that in theaters.
and yeah, BFG is still on Disney Plus. Okay, so
BFG.
BFG had a 140 million budget and it made 195 million.
Okay.
Sometimes I wonder who sees these movies because it's like, so it's not that I don't believe people see them, but like nobody talks about them.
I
Like,
talk about them
we
on a
don't get like
podcast.
we don't get the silent minority on social media discussing it.
I I talk about what about The Croods,
The
and then the
Croods,
sequel,
oh
The
my god,
Croods Part 2, The Croodening. I forget what it's actually called. Is it Croods 2? What is The Croods 2? The Croods A New Age.
The
Uh
Croods, a new age. Oh my
yeah.
god,
Turbo, movie about a snail that's fast.
man, just
That's a good one.
I vaguely remember that movie.
I haven't
God,
seen like any of these movies I'm referencing.
Turbo was Ryan Reynolds.
He's like,
Man,
I'm a snail. Well,
oh my god,
talk to the camera. I don't know.
nobody
Oh,
remembers
speaking
these
of
movies.
Ryan Reynolds properties, let's get into our weeks. One thing we could talk about, non-gaming related, about our weeks is we watched Logan together,
Yes,
the film Logan. Um,
yes.
yeah, I had never seen it. Actually, that is a lie. I had seen the ending half of the film. They played it. They were playing it at a Christmas party that I went to. Just the
Mhm.
ending half of Logan. So I hadn't seen the full film, but you had seen it though.
Yeah, I'd seen it once before, I think.
Did you see it in theaters or did you see it like later?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters. It
hmm
was actually fun. I was just thinking, in theaters after the original was out for a bit, they had like a black and white filming or something like that.
it's
I never got to
stupid.
see that, but it was kind of cool because it's like very Western inspired.
Okay, Logan. My mini review of Logan. Having not seen any X Men films, but only knowing about X Men through like other means and some of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics.
Through osmosis.
Um, yeah, Logan was really good. I really liked it. I think that would be very pretentious to watch that movie in black and white because it's like it is a serious movie with serious things. Um, but I think it's a little funny to do a black and white showing.
Man,
I had to turn off my. I'm not gonna say the name of the device because it'll activate, but I had to turn it off because it activated.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I think I think what was really interesting to me, or what was always interesting to me about the movie is in a movie about a guy with metal claws, a surprising amount of people just died by getting shot. Like
Fair
damn, like
enough.
that, like like I remember when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, the director said like, yeah, this is Western. It's fine. I'm like, I don't really see it, and then I started seeing the guns, and I'm like, damn, it really is a Western.
Mm. Yeah, I guess so. And then yeah, a stranger comes into town or whatever. There is a lot of dust and sand.
Yeah.
Um, I yeah. So I guess we're gonna get into potential spoilers for Logan, the film that came out in 2017. I'm not gonna just drop a spoiler probably, but we can just generally talk about it. So you're forewarned.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I again going in no context besides like I know Patrick Stewart is Professor X. He uses his mind for like like oh Logan, that's kind of what I was
Man.
expecting. Huge jacked man, I knew him. Um, yeah, I liked how I think was this one of the first R-rated kind of superhero movies that like of that generation of kicking off kind of this walked so Deadpool could run kind of film.
I think it was one of the first. I can look it up really quick.
hmm
I mean, like if we're talking like Marvel, DC, yeah, but there was also I guess Watchmen is technically DC, but that was 8 years before, so it'd been a
Isn't
little while.
Watchmen like Image Comics?
I
Or
don't
let me see.
think so. I think it's DC. Yeah, it's DC.
Okay. My worldview is wrong. I
It's
lost
weird
all
because it
comics
doesn't like
cred.
overlap with other DC stuff very as frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been quite a few R-rated live action superhero movies before that. It was one of the first like really big ones,
Well, and it also mhm.
especially coming from a franchise that isn't typically R-rated already.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. Like um that, and I guess it's so you were telling me. I mean, you can definitely watch Logan as a standalone for the most part if you know who the X-Men are. If you didn't, you'd
Yeah.
still be a little confused. Um, but uh, I didn't. I have no context for the other films. So Logan is a sequel to the regular films in the X-Men movie franchise that were coming out before like the big MCU stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. So there were a couple Wolverine movies before that. There was X-Men Origins Wolverine, the one that had the shitty Deadpool. Outside of that, the movie wasn't that bad. It was okay. Then there was the Wolverine, which was the typical Wolverine in Japan story. I came here to die, kill me, and then he doesn't die. He's like, oh, well, I'm alive now. Okay. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, and then there was some weird like timeline stuff where like there were two timelines. One where it was the original three X Men movies, and then another where it was like Days of Future Past and X Men First Class and all that stuff. And the whole idea was the originally the second timeline was like, yeah, we're not doing Wolverine and we're not doing all the same characters. You know, everybody's younger and cool, and we're not gonna crush on Wolverine this time. And then after the Wolverine, they like merged the timelines and they just put Wolverine in there anyway. So
Yeah,
yeah.
because I mean, Hugh Jackman Wolverine, you like he's such a perfect fit for the character. Although I believe in the comics he's really short, and Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman is just a normal height dude, I guess.
Yeah,
But really,
he's
I think he embodies the character pretty well. it's like having again, it's like kind of having like Jay Jonah, right, where
mhm.
he's always played by the man who I forget his name constantly, even though he's in literally everything. Um, oh God, I gotta look him up.
Man.
I feel
I'm
bad
not
because I
giving you any hints.
always
I'm making you figure this out.
I'm looking it up because like okay, it's oh my God, I'm like at his page. Please just tell me the actor.
It's on the tip of your tongue, Matt.
It is. Oh, this is bad podcast.
There's a J in it.
Oh God, Can I can't find it on like the page. Just say the name.
Okay,
It's like
I'll
not
just
pulling up.
it's J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons. Thank
It's
you.
funny
It was
because like
not coming up.
the pieces of that name are in like Jonah Jameson. 'Cause you have like you have the J and then like Simmons and Messon and yeah.
I was just thinking about his like every role he's been in. I'm like Omni Man and that, and then also I think he was in Klaus. I think he's Santa Claus in Klaus or something. He's like
Hmm.
in everything, and I'm like he's the best. And I always forget his name every time it comes up. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's like replacing him. You know, you want to keep the actor, and I think the X Men casting. I mean, it is a little funny because I know in one of the X Men movies, isn't the Human Torch played by Mr. Captain America himself?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and also Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool in, but like a bad Deadpool
Yeah.
in one of them.
Yeah. You know what I actually find kind of funny is back when Hugh Jackman was originally cast as Wolverine for like the first X Men movie, people actually thought it was a bad casting. Because
Hmm.
like Wolverine in the comics, he's this short, muscular, very Canadian man who wears a goofy suit, doesn't like sleeves, and I guess they just didn't see it with Hugh Jackman at all.
Well, that's kind of the thing about comics too. It's like you'll have a comic run where like the characters are like so different. Then there's like a theatrical run where it's like, oh, everyone associates like Tobey Maguire with Spider-Man for a while, or like they'll associate the character like I guess it was like Star Lord. Like everyone's like, oh, Star Lord, Chris Pratt. And the
Hmm.
characters slowly in the comics will like morph toward looking more like the actor, or like in the
Yeah,
video games where they're like legally distinct versions of the actors that they can't get their likenesses.
yeah.
So I think it goes both ways.
That's one thing I actually really liked about the Guardians of the Galaxy game is that Star Lord actually didn't look like Chris Pratt like at all. They went for like a different interpretation of the character. He's blonde.
Yeah,
Most blonde people are cool.
they're like 10% cooler than any other
Yeah.
hair color. It's their
Um,
modifier.
Actually,
Um,
another thing that I think is really funny about Hugh Jackman is he never ended up wearing the Wolverine costume. Like in a couple movies, at the end they tease it like, "Oh yeah, the Wolverine costume, it exists in the universe." And then at the end of the Wolverine, I think he got like given a suitcase, and he opened it, and the Wolverine costume was in there, and he just never wore it ever. And it's funny because for a long time there was always this thing where it's like, "Oh yeah, superhero costumes, they look stupid in live action. They can't wear those."
So I am not entirely caught up with the MCU stuff because a lot of it has been hot dog water, hot dog
Yeah.
warm room temperature for like 10 weeks hot dog water. Really not very entertaining. Um but
Yep.
what I have seen points to X-Men eventually appearing in the MCU, and I'm actually very interested and excited to see how they will handle that. There is a film, I think it was the Doctor Strange film, and minor spoilers for the Doctor Strange film, I believe. There is a moment in which they go to a multiverse where Patrick Stewart reprises his role as
Oh yeah.
Prof X, and he's in like a ridiculous like super wheelchair from the comics, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like they aren't afraid to go like stupid with some of the costume designs, which is kind of nice. Um, so I think they will do X Men and Fantastic Four and stuff. It's kind of crazy that they weren't doing that. If you start reading any Spider Man comics, and you realize how connected like X Men and Fantastic Four are to Spider Man from time to time, at least what I've
Yeah.
read. Um, but you know, licenses with movies are crazy. But now that Disney owns everything, we'll be able to see what they do with the X Men.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because before the MCU, the Avengers actually weren't even like that popular. Everybody knew about like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and the Avengers were like they were the B team. But
Hmm.
but Marvel just didn't have any choice but to use them because they didn't have the rights for the X-Men or the Fantastic Four.
What's funny is like, I mean, the X Men I think are probably the coolest of that franchise. I
Hmm.
really like. I haven't actually delved into reading too much of the X Men stuff. But it's just a cool idea,
Hmm.
and you know, people randomly getting mutation powers and who can have what power, and you know, it's a neat idea. I think later replicate it in the works of like My Hero. I could, you know, like things where people
Yeah.
exist and there's powers, and you know, that's always going to be cool. Um, and you could always have like a villain of the week or you know some crazy stuff happen.
Hmm.
But Fantastic Four, I don't know about you, but they've always seemed really boring to me.
I kind of felt that too, and I think there was a point where I realized like, oh, their whole thing is they're like a family. I might actually just be too young for that.
Yeah, and
It was like all
honestly,
about like
with
family values and stuff, and it's like I was reading it when I was like 14, and it was like, well, I don't care about this stuff.
I mean, it's about family, but also it's like Reed Richards just laying pipe every 5 seconds, at least in the Ultimate Universe. He's just like, oh my god, I'm so smart. I accidentally caused like a world ending event, but I'm so smart. The burden of my smartness and attractiveness is such a burden to my everyday life.
I
And
think
then,
that's most of the Ultimate Universe stuff. To be fair,
yeah, I mean, Ultimate Spider Man is its own thing where, like, I like it. It feels
yeah, it's
more
a
like
great comic.
melodrama.
Yeah,
And then having to read anything in so I've been I think I've talked about this on the podcast, but like I fall off of Ultimate Spider-Man when I have to start reading like bigger crossover stories that are
yeah,
drawn and written by other people. And
yeah,
I started reading one of the stories where Scarlet Witch and her brother are like banging each other, or they're heavily implied. So like, I'm like reading about Spider Man. This may be like spoilers. I don't even know for Ultimate Spider Man, but I'm like reading Spider Man. It's like Peter Parker running around being like, "Who should I take to prom?" Then the next issue, he's drawn like a 37-year-old man in his suit because it's just a different
Hmm.
artist. It looks like a full grown man. And then Tony Stark has a sex tape that's leaking, and there's like incest, and like Hawkeye is literally, it's like the arc where he's like shooting people and killing them. He's like, I don't want to live anymore, and just literally starts shooting people for no reason. I'm like, what? How did this was one issue away from what I was reading, and it's just a completely different vibe.
Yeah, comics had a really really edgy phase at that
Yeah,
time. It was crazy. Like man,
like
everything was about like
absurd.
sex, murder, and more sex.
I mean, I always knew about that with like DC. I always thought they were a little more edgy, but seeing like Marvel being weirdly edgy is just kind of like, it kind of made me like, whoa, this is weird.
Well, I,
Um,
I think the funny thing is DC actually generally is. I would actually argue DC might be the less edgy one.
well,
It's
not
just
edgy,
that it's
more
just
like
like the
risky, risque with their art
yeah
and direction and
yeah.
stories.
I think part of it is both the new 52, which was actually partially I believe a response to what Marvel was doing, and also the DCEU and Zack Snyder with making everything just ridiculously dark. Like, yes,
Martha.
Superman had to kill this guy to make sure that he didn't immediately kill a bunch of civilians in his face.
Oh my god.
Superman PTSD.
Hey, dude, the I will say the newest piece, like the only piece of DC media that I've really have consumed is I watched some of Teen Titans. I'm like, yeah, Teen Titans,
Hmm.
and the Harley Quinn show that came out and is still airing, which I
Hmm.
really enjoy. Um, I really love that take on the universe. It's a little stupid. It's like a comedy, but like they have all the like the Batman characters just being kind of
Yeah.
dumb. I don't know. It's like a really like nice take on the universe for me. And I guess they're doing spin-off shows with Kite Man or something in that
Hmm.
same universe. So it is getting a little girl bossy kind of. It's getting a little like there's some lines of dialogue that are like okay, a little over the top, but overall I think it's a funny show. They even have an episode basically talking about people doing this about like two guys just being like, "Oh, this writing is whatever," and then they actually end up liking the show because
Yeah.
they didn't watch it; they were just shitting on it. But yeah, recommend that to anyone who likes DC stuff or just fun shows. Um,
Hmm.
anyway, let's get into the weeks a little bit. We're like 20 minutes into this video game podcast. We haven't talked about video
Yeah.
games. So what have you been up to in your week?
Um, not as much gaming as usual. I started a new job, so I've been a little busy with that. But
Mm-hmm.
I did effectively burn myself out on Remnant 2. Yeah, I kind of got to the point where I'm just kind of grinding my final items, and I was just like, well, I just started the game up one day. I'm like, well, I'd rather just do this after some DLC comes out because, like,
Yeah, fair enough.
um, I've said it before, but the last item I need to get, I have to do like a super high difficulty for it, and it's like, well, once I finish that, I'm not gonna really want to play the game anymore because it's the highest difficulty. So like, I've been gearing up this whole time to play on the highest difficulty, but I won't be able to get my final gear until I finish it. So yeah, but yeah,
That is
I'm excited for the DLC.
that is how it goes though, isn't it? Like where are you the same way where if you have a game with a lot of side content in it or there's like side stuff where you can grind, are you the same way where you'll put off the main story and you'll just kind of do the side quest cuz if you beat the whole game and like do everything, you won't return to the side content or return to grinding.
I usually do end up doing the side content that's left after I do the story. Like if it's convenient to do some side content, I'll do it. Like if it's just directly where I am, I'll just kind of get it done. And sometimes there are some things that I want to do for different items or something else I want to do just because I want to experience it before the ending of the story because it might not make sense later. Like Cyberpunk, for example. I did my a lot of side stuff like the romances thing like that before the story ended because well partially because dialogue is different, but also just because the story had these pretty large lulls.
Mhm.
Like they actually did give you time to do side quests.
Yeah, speaking of Cyberpunk, that DLC is coming out very soon, unless it gets
Yeah,
delayed in a classic move.
yeah, it's a little less than a month, I think. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think it's like only a couple weeks now. Yeah, I'm just checking. Phantom City Library Liberty. Phantom Liberty in 3 weeks. Yep. I am excited to replay that whole game with a. I want to. Here's my thing. I want to replay the game, but I actually really liked the romance that I did and like the
Hmm.
story that I had on my Male V Hacker Man. But hacking is terrible in that game and boring. Terrible as in boring, although they were retooling everything.
Yeah, they're
Um,
probably. I hope they rework that. They should. You can make it
so
more like Edge Runners or something.
I want to do melee build, and I
Hmm.
started a female corpo, but I kind of just might make another Street Kid V and just do like a melee build and do like the same
Hmm.
romance that I did just to see if it goes into the DLC. I don't really want to. I don't really. I don't know. I really liked that story, and if I could continue it in the DLC and somehow, I would like to see how it would pan out. Um. So yeah. Well, I don't know.
Hmm.
Are you gonna do a fresh character, or are you gonna try to do shenanigans?
Honestly, it depends on if I'm capable of using my old save because I had mods on that save, and I don't remember what
Hmm.
mods I had, and I'm on a new PC. So like, I
Yeah,
I could try to load the save, and it might just be corrupted or something.
I think fresh is the way to go though, just because they're like. Did you see the little trailer video they put out about some of the new features they're adding?
Yeah, I saw it. So it'll also depend on like if I can do a new game plus, I might just do it because there are some things that were kind of tedious to get, and also
Hmm.
some things that I may or may not have had to mod in. Because I may or may not have accidentally killed somebody at the start of the story and then realized
Oh
later
my
that I
god.
wasn't supposed to.
I'm wondering if, yeah, like you said with the new game plus, I feel like they'll probably give you an option. I mean, they're gonna probably have to because all of the skill trees are gonna be kind of different. So I think they'll just start your character with nothing, and you can respec.
Yeah, they'll probably just like by default respec everybody.
I think I just want to replay the whole thing, and in general, it's been long enough. I haven't played it.
Hmm.
I think it'll be worth going through again.
Yep.
Speaking of that, a little bit into my week, I've been doing the same thing about replaying a game that I started and did like half of. I've been playing Disco Elysium,
Hmm.
uh, and that game is so good. It is fantastic. I had played most of that. Well, I played a good chunk of that game a long time ago, then fell off because I was doing. I think I was doing a Mimi build, which I don't think was a good idea at the
Hmm.
time. How familiar are you with Disco Elysium?
Not very much. I just know that it has a very good narrative, and I've bought the game. I just haven't played it yet.
Hmm.
Actually, I'm gonna install it right now because I do think
Yeah,
I
and
want to play it this
play
week.
it. It is okay. So I'm not gonna say any spoilers, but I'm just gonna give some scenarios of like early on in the game to just describe what kind of a game it is in case someone has not played it.
Hmm.
Um, Disco Elysium is a very unique game in the fact that it's like a kind of a top down. Well, not top down. It's more like an isometric almost ARPG game. But there's like the focus of the game is it's like an RPG with a bunch of different branching dialogue choices. It's like basically a
Hmm.
choose your own adventure game, and you gain experience from uh, passing skill checks and doing different dialogue options. So it's very like narrative driven,
Hmm.
the game. So, for example, you're basically you start the game, you're a cop, right? And you just
Yeah.
drank a bunch, and you just wake up and just like you're hungover, you drank or did a bunch of drugs or whatever. You don't really remember who you are because you
Drink
just
or
partied
did a
so
bunch
hard.
of drugs.
No,
Average
both.
cop
You
moment.
did both. Yes. So you have amnesia basically, which lets you kind of mold what kind of a cop you are. Uh, so the game has basically it has like the Fallout your special stats at the beginning
Oh
where you
boy.
can choose one of three archetypes or make your own. Where it's like you could be super smart cop, you could be super sensitive cop who's like in tune with people, or like super strong man.
Hmm.
Or make your own custom like stat distribution. Now, as you level, you can distribute these points into there's different elements of each level. So being a strong guy doesn't mean just being strong for skill checks. There's like a bunch of different parts of it. There's like
Hmm.
an ability called like shivers, which like gives you information about the city that you're in when you'll hit these different skill checks. And there's like, just physical strength, and then there's all these different things. Um, but basically, the whole game is you're walking around and you're hitting all these different. It'll play out. The whole game's voice acted now, by the way. It used
Ooh.
to not be, but they voice acted literally every line of dialogue, which is insane in this game
Hmm.
because there is so much like dialogue, and it's not just characters. It's like every description of things is voiced. So
Hmm.
there's a trait called encyclopedia in the game, which is one of the like intelligence traits. And if you have a high enough encyclopedia rating, basically you'll be hitting rolls where you'll be walking around, and every 5 seconds, basically a giant wall of text will just scribe like everything to you. It's like, oh, a manhole cover. This must have been made in blah 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 blah. And it's like just hours and hours of dialogue.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. It's a pretty unique game. Um, basically, basically going on earlier. What I did when I first played the game was I went all in on like meme choices because you can make some pretty memey choices, and I was going like hobo cop and running around like asking people for money, telling them I'm the law, and like picking up cans and selling cans, and basically just being an absolute menace, giving children drugs, and just not being a good guy.
You ask people for money, then when they say no, you pull out your gun and badge.
Yeah, you. It's interesting that you would mention gun and badge because, yeah, maybe those got lost in the mix of the drinking and whatnot. But yeah, you can choose how to play the game, and it's one of the. It seems seemingly one of the most replayable games. Because I did that kind of a hobo cop thing at first, where I was running around doing all this dumb stuff, and now that I'm replaying the game, I'm doing boring man, where I'm basically trying to play it like I'm playing as like an actual cop,
Hmm.
and it's really really interesting, like the dialogue, and it's something that I think you need to play maybe a couple times through to see a good amount, but you'll probably never see everything in the game
Hmm.
unless you play it a lot because there's so many. It is insane how many things that are missable and that you might see on another playthrough, and just by the nature of the game. I think I did a pretty bad job of explaining why it's good. It's just very unique. And if you like RPG games where you can really, it's like, do you know in like Telltale games, like the choices don't matter, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. It feels like the choices matter in this game in a way, and like there are times where you'll say something like I'll talk to a character and do an event, and then I'll do something out of order. Like maybe I have to investigate a crime scene, then I have to go call someone. I'll do like
Hmm.
15 other things, then I'll call the person, and then that person will make a note that I did that in a different order. And it's like every way you do every certain way you do something might get brought up, or you know modified. It feels
Hmm.
like a magical experience. I don't know. Just play
Yeah.
the game. It's really good. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, maybe we'll talk about that another time if you start playing it. Well, I'm interested to see what choices you end up making if you do, because I'm sure our playthroughs will be very different.
Yeah. Probably.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was also just thinking. Besides Disco Elysium, I think I also want to. I might play Baldur's Gate 3. I'm not 100% sure yet,
I
but
think it has some crossover in terms of like I don't think you could be playing both those games at the same time. I think you'll overload on that kind
yeah,
of a game.
yeah.
Um I mean, you could play Baldur's Gate 3 because it's like new kind of
Hmm.
and play it while it's, being talked about. Or you could play a little Disco Elysium, wait on it, wait for some more Baldur's Gate 3 stuff. But
Yeah. The reason why I bring up Baldur's Gate 3 is because I have a friend who keeps DMing me saying like, "Yeah, man, I just go around in Baldur's Gate 3 and I read books. And it's awesome. The books are amazing. They're not like real life books where they're like they have big words and they're long. These are like 3 page just books." I'm like, okay, okay, man."
The lusty Argonian
And I'm
mage
sitting here like,
maid.
you've got the game on my mind. What's the gameplay like? And he's like, I don't know. I read books, man.
That was like me trying to describe Disco Elysium. It's so cool. You get to like have meaningful connections with other humans in a video game. It's just like doesn't. It's hard to. I feel like that game. I didn't know what Disco Elysium was at all.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it was at the Game Awards, where it like won Indie Game of the Year one of the years, and I was like convinced it was not going to win because I'm like, what is this game?
hmm
Disco Elysium. No one knows what this is.
What is this about?
Um,
A high school disco party or something?
well, it looked like one of those like walking simulators or something. Like I had no idea what it was, and I think people when it came out had no clue what this thing was. Um, I do think there's one thing about Disco Elysium though. I believe something with the publishers or someone has the like the rights holder to Disco Elysium isn't the creators, and I think they're being held hostage where they can't make anything new in the universe because they
Arnar.
have some sort of dispute with I don't know. I think it's the publisher or something. Basically, it's like the developers are kind of in a weird spot where they're like annoyed they can't, that they're getting kind of screwed over for their success. But
Man.
um, yeah, it's enough talking about a game. Disco Elysium, play it. Just go look it up. If you look it up and watch any like couple minutes of the game and it looks like something that's interesting to you, you should just play it yourself. It's a game where you have skill checks on things. You'll have like a 50 like I'll upgrade my empathy and I have a 50% chance of getting this. And if you fail, sometimes failing is more interesting than succeeding on these skill checks. Like things still happen if you fail sometimes.
hmm
So that's all I got to say about that. If you do play it, go in, just don't worry about builds and min maxing and stuff. Just play it and uh, have fun. Anyway, have you been playing anything else this week?
I did play a little bit of Dota. There was a new patch again, so I just whipped out some games. It was kind of funny because they didn't buff this item, but everybody just builds it now. It's a blade mail. It's just a damage reflecting item basically. You activate it, you just reflect all the damage you take. And it's funny because what people do is they just pick a super tanky character. They just like sit on a lane. Then if you try to fight them, they activate blade mail and you just have to walk away because it lasts like 6 seconds. It's like what am I gonna do? Sit in the trees for 6 seconds and watch him walk away? Like I can do better things with my time,
Says the average Dota player. It's just like, what am
man.
I gonna do? Not wait 50 minutes in this brisk match?
Man,
Oh man. But
yeah.
no, is it just people just decided that they want to start using blade mail now, or is it like did it get buffed in any way, or is it
Uh,
just good
didn't
against the
necessarily
meta?
get buffed. It's just like the way that the game plays now, where it's lots of the characters that can just sit on a lane and be super tanky, and also have the I don't know how to describe it. Like have the build flexibility to actually build a blade mail are just good right now. So it's like just kind of buy it. The item also got it didn't get buffed this patch, but like historically, it's gotten like a string of buffs.
When was the last new item that was added?
The last new item.
Do they add items? I know I feel like that it's very infrequent because an item to balance an item for you basically have to balance it around every character pretty much, right?
Yeah. So usually they add an item every major patch. So like the last major patch was 7.33, which was in like April. Yeah, it was in April. And they added, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They added 7 items, and 2 of them are like component items, so they're not like full items in your build. And one of
Mm-hmm.
them is like essentially like a starting item. It's called Blood Grenade. It's basically just throw a little vial of your blood, and it like slows people and does some damage over time. Like it's a very
Huh.
small slow and small damage, but like early game, it's just really good early game because you can get kills that you wouldn't get otherwise. and it's like charge based. It's like a consumable item. So there's a limited stock, and yeah, you can only have like so many on you.
So have they added something? So like you're saying like blade mail or something like that. Have they
Hmm.
added something to the game where it's just like a complete new, I don't know, just a new way that like affects a lot of builds or whatever? It feels like it would be kind of hard to add an item that's just like. I guess what I'm getting at is it's kind of the thing where if the game came out today,
Hmm.
right, or if every item was being added in an update, what people will be like, that's OP, you should never add it. Do you know what I mean? Like certain items get legacy put in.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that where like if the game was made today, they would remove it? They wouldn't it wouldn't it never make it in the game.
Hmm. I need to look at like a list of items.
Yeah, if there's
But
something where it's like, oh my god, like that would never pass today, like why would that, be in the game?
yeah, I think there have been some items like that before. Like I don't know if you remember, there's an item called Necronomicon, which is
Hmm.
you summon these like two little units. Uh, they did like a shit ton of damage. They had mana burn on them, and if you killed one of them, you would take a bunch of damage yourself.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, and it was like an item you would upgrade, and when it gets max upgrade, the units would give like true sight, so you could use them to deward, and also to like spot invis heroes and stuff like that. It was crazy. They had to remove it. It was in the game for like over 10 years,
That
and
sounds
then
like an ability that a character would have.
yeah, how it would work is you would build it on characters that already have summons or already want to build like aura items. So you just make the Necrobook units stronger, and they obviously they also just you can have like a whole army of summons instead of just the two.
Hmm.
So you're just like hitting building with them. But yeah, people kind of realize that it's like, wait, this is actually like really annoying, kind of not okay. This probably shouldn't be like in the game. So yeah, they removed it like al- almost 3 years ago now. Actually, it's like two and a
It's
half years maybe.
wild. I guess for the most part, items will get tweaked rather than get fully like removed if they were too annoying. I'm just trying to think of
I mean,
like,
let me find a list of like removed items. They've actually removed quite a few because there've been a lot of really clowny ones.
yeah, yeah. Go look for the list. It is funny to me though because I've been playing Counter Strike recently, and it would
Hmm.
be like if they removed a gun from Counter Strike. It's just like let's remove the like shotgun. It just feels weird
Yeah.
because it's like it's always been there almost. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like it's always been there, so we're not gonna change it.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, I did find the list. So some of
mhm.
these are kind of like quality of life things. Like for example, they removed the animal courier and flying courier items because everybody just gets a courier by default now. Like they get their own one instead of
Mhm.
one per team, and they upgrade automatically as you level up. They removed stout shield, which was just you had like a 50% chance to block a little bit of damage, and they just made it built in.
50%.
Yeah, like 50%. It was like, let me look back. It was 50% chance to block 20 damage if you were melee and 9 damage if you were ranged.
Oh,
So
okay. I
only
thought it was
melee
like
heroes really.
total damage. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, no. So yeah, only melee heroes really built it, and they just basically said like, yeah, we're just gonna make this built into melee heroes because like, what's the point of? It's just kind of silly to have it.
Yeah,
Um,
fair enough.
yeah, Necronomicon was removed. Wraith Pact. This was like an upgrade to an aura item called Vladimir's Offering, which just gave like AOE lifesteal. And what Wraith Pact used to do is it would place this little totem that you can move around, and it would reduce all damage by like 30% or something, like all
Hmm.
enemy damage. It was it was really bad because it messed up a bunch of like breakpoints, and some characters became unkillable.
Yikes. It's
Um,
just wacky shenanigans.
yeah, there's actually this is a funny one because it shows how much I guess like stat priorities and stuff have changed over time. There used to be this item called Ring of Tarask, which built into Heart of Tarask, which is like the big strength like health item. And what it did is it gave 150 health and 4 health regen for 200 gold. And why that's really funny is because there's an item in the game called Ring of Health right now, and
Hmm.
it's 700 gold. Can only be bought at the secret shop, which is like a specific shop outside of your base, and provides 4.5 health regen. So so this item gave essentially the same health regen and 150 total health for a fourth of the cost.
That seems like someone messed up.
Yeah.
That seems
Um,
like a holdover.
to be fair, Ring of Health has been nerfed a bunch of times. It used to give like 7 or 8 health regen, but
Yeah.
like it was literally just because people realized like, wait, this regen is kind of OP to have in the early game. So like, imagine if they still had this item that gave regen and health for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't envy the people who have to balance Dota. I do
yeah,
not. Or
yeah. Then
League,
there's
especially.
this.
Just,
Oh yeah, I think League might get a little bit messier, to be honest.
I think it's just because like they keep adding. The thing about League is like they need to add characters to keep the interest high and sell the bikini skins. And the problem
Hmm.
is when you keep adding so many characters and you only have like a rotation and all that, it's just like, okay, the new character needs to be kind of OP at launch to be, so people will buy them. If
Oh,
they're,
that reminds
if they're,
me. They
Mhm.
uh they announced a new League character recently. I don't know if you heard about it. It was really controversial because it was like a lowly vampire, and the splash art just had her feet, like bare feet, right in the front. And
I'm
then
looking up League of Legends characters' feet.
it's called
Oh
Briar.
no. Oh no, list of bare feet character. No,
So so the
wait, go away.
so the character is called Briar, like
Okay, Briar.
Briar.
Barari.
And, and the funniest part is, um like a day after the splash art came out, people were like, "Hey guys, Riot actually fixed the splash art. They gave her shoes." And everybody's like, "Oh, good, they gave her shoes." Pog. And then somebody came out and said, "This was actually an edit somebody made on Reddit. Riot didn't do anything."
Oh god. Oh god. I'm looking at
Oh
the art
man,
right now.
yeah,
Honestly, like design wise, like the actual character, I think is mostly fine. It's kind of like creepy looking, a little sus, but like, yeah, whatever. Whatever looking. But
yeah,
the pose that the feet are in too, and the not ideal. And this, I don't know. I just play a cat when I play that game, so it's okay.
man,
I play, uh, yeah, but
yeah, yeah.
at
Remove
least
Dota
it's not
items.
stolen art this time.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
at least it's not stolen. Yeah, remove Dota items. I mean, there's some other ones that are just kind of quality of life. Like there used to be an item called Tome of Knowledge, which every 10 minutes, you would get your team would get one in stock. Emphasis on your whole team got one, and if you would buy the Tome of Knowledge and then use it, and it would give you a bunch of experience. Now,
Oh
normally you would
god.
assume, oh yeah, I'll just give it to my underleveled support. But some people, some like mid players would just snag it as soon as it hit the 10-minute mark. Like they'd have their shop open waiting for it to be available.
That
It
sounds
caused
like a
so many.
really good item for team-based play when you're actually in
Yeah.
good faith. But with randos, and same thing with the courier, it's like when you have random people, just try to make it as remove as many toxic elements besides things that make you money, like being able to yell funny things at people. Um,
Man.
Try to remove as many toxic things like that as you can, where it's like if only one person on the team can do it, and it's gonna be like don't like noob, don't do this, you're going to ruin the game, then yeah, I would just take it out.
Yeah, it was. God, it was such a goofy time. Like that and the courier, because like when everybody shared when you only got one courier on your team, everybody shared control of it. So you'd be like trying to get your item, and somebody would just be spamming it to go back to base to get their item. And there'd just be all these arguments.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Um,
no, the one core, like, yeah, I don't even like first. I don't even like Dota 2, but like, I don't like the courier system that much. I'd rather just, I don't know. A lot of things about League, and I think it's just simplicity. I think I enjoy the simplicity of League a little bit more than
mhm,
I. I don't. I don't particularly enjoy. I think Dota is designed for people who love complex things. Things
mhm,
like the more systems and the more complex, the better, which is terrible for, having new players, gaining new players. But
mhm,
um, I can see why people would enjoy it in terms of like, this is the most advanced version of this thing out there. It's
mhm.
just like, I don't like it at all. So, I mean, it's just bounces me off so hard, you know?
Man. All right, so I've got two more removed items. This first one was a one item, and it was called useless item. So
That's a good one.
the description says strange item. Is it really useless? You'll have to purchase it to find out. And then so that's like the description of the supposed active. And then the item description says, "Yes, it's useless, you ask. Can't you read the name? It says useless."
That sounds
Oh
like
man.
the most like day one item of like, oh, that's funny. We'll put that in. And now it's like, now when you load up your like spreadsheet, when you load up your spreadsheet to help organize your spreadsheets so you can actually play the game, um, I feel like items like that don't have a purpose anymore.
Yeah, so the item came out in on January 9th, 2004 and was removed on April 9th, 2004.
And
So
then
for
you have Mr. Funny Guy in your team who probably buys them and like, hey guys, like I bought ha ha ha. It's like
yeah.
we don't need this.
So yeah, for 3 months people were some people were just buying a useless item.
I wonder what the stats are around that. Just like how many
Uh,
per game.
yeah. It costs 450 gold, so you could buy a lot if you really wanted to.
Could you like buy more than one? Just fill your inventory with it because I feel like that
Yeah.
would have been an
Yeah,
epidemic.
you can buy more than one.
It's just that sounds like the most streamer thing of just like guys, we're gonna go we're gonna get to Grandmaster just using useless items. Let's go.
Man.
Uh,
Okay. And the last one is banana. So this item was added to as like a teaser for Monkey King, one of the new characters. It was the first Dota 2 exclusive character. And what would happen is, so when you would destroy a tree, there'd be a random chance for a banana to drop.
this is so stupid.
And they would only drop in private lobbies with cheats enabled. Um,
Okay.
and so what it would do, so basically a tree would have a 5% chance to drop between 2 and 5 bananas upon getting destroyed. And when you use the banana, you would permanently gain 4 of the intelligence stat. You would drop a banana peel when you consume it, and when if an enemy stepped over the banana peel, they would slip on it, moving around randomly and being disabled for the duration.
So odd. It's such an odd choice.
Man,
Um, yeah. Good thing no fun is allowed anymore in Dota 2.
oh man, yeah. So
Um,
they
mhm.
do stuff like this every once in a while. It's cool.
All right, we're kind of winding down on time here. I think we should switch over to the questions. If you have a question, email us at hyeppodcast@gmail.com. That is the hyeppodcast@gmail.com. Um, so I'm not even gonna go off of our questions right now because I had a question for you from me.
Oh
Because so when I was saying haha Grandmaster challenge whatever, have you seen those videos? This was a big Overwatch thing, and I think it's a thing in all competitive games. But there's like
yeah,
streamers who do something where it's like I'm gonna go from bronze, or like there will be like a top 500 player. They're like I'm gonna go from bronze to top 500, but I'm only using pistol on Mercy.
yeah,
And
yeah. I've seen a lot of those. I actually have a kind of funny story about that.
yeah, what's your opinion on that?
I think they're okay. Like there's definitely an audience out for them out there. I don't think it's great content. Like it's just kind of yeah, surprise. Somebody who's in a high tier rank can get there again from the lowest ranked. The rank system is working as it should.
Yeah.
Um, but the funny story is that I don't know when this trend started, but I do know that in Apex Legends at least, the trend started a little over a year ago. I think it might be almost 2 years now, but there was this one player named It's Timmy, and he said, I'm going to go from bronze to Apex Predator or something. And everybody's like, wow, nobody's ever done that before. Is that even possible? And so he was doing
Someone's
it.
done it,
Yeah,
technically.
it's it's so and so he was doing it, and I think around like mid diamond, he started getting like a little stuck because inevitably you will slow down at some point, especially in a game like Apex where, to be 100% honest, since the teams are so small, If you have one bad teammate, they can just kind of drag you down completely, and you just insta lose. So he was getting stuck, and I think he spent like 12 hours in Diamond or something like that. And by the time he got to Apex Predator, I think he had been playing for like 48 hours straight or something.
Yeah, that's healthy. That sounds like a
Yeah,
streamer.
all on stream. And so he did this challenge, a similar challenge multiple times. Duration would either go down a bit or go up a bit. And there's a popular theory that he actually, this actually isn't really a theory. It's kind of science. He probably fried his brain doing this, like literally fried his brain.
Oh god.
And everybody talks about like, yeah, he's not like the same. He's not like the same person after doing it, like to some degree. Like there's some times where he'll be playing and he'll just kind of go into autopilot and it'll look really really weird. And people
Well,
are
he
like,
probably got actually burnt out.
yeah, and it's like, damn, pre Bronze the Predator, Timmy would have never done that. It's just like,
Yeah.
man,
My take is like get content creators, it gets clicks, do it, I guess. But there is something like scummy about I think the whole like yeah, there's kind of like a weird thing around it too, at least when I was watching some Overwatch stuff, where it's almost like guys bronze to top 500. First of all, they got to like throw those first matches to get even into bronze.
yeah, it's
So
literally smurfing.
yeah, you literally have to throw those matches, and sometimes it
Yeah.
can affect your team, and that's annoying.
Hmm.
But realistically, the matchmaker should basically catch on and put you against people. Uh, but they kind of frame it in a way where it's like, guys, what's your excuse? We're bronze to top 500. It's like, see,
Yeah.
it's not bad teammates. It's like, or sometimes they'll be like, guys, I get it, gold, elo hell, ha ha ha, whatever. It's like, oh man, it's true. It's like I don't know. It's entertaining content, but it does like ruin games, and I think smurfing in general is like annoying. Um,
Yeah. I think there's a part of the message that's like fine, like the idea that like it's not always teammates. You have more power to win games than you think, which is definitely true.
Depends
You
on
know,
the
I
role in the game too.
I also think that like even for less like solo carry roles, I don't think it's particularly productive to put it on teammates because like it inevitably, right? If you improve enough, you will go up. It may be slower with some roles than others, but also if I were to say, I'm just gonna play this character, like if I'm a support player in Overwatch, for example, I say like, I'm not really getting MR on Mercy. I'll just play like Kiriko and just DPS, right? And let's say I go from like silver to plat. Then I'll go back to playing Mercy, and suddenly, I'm still a silver Mercy. Like I didn't get necessarily get better at Mercy. I got better at Kiriko. And so it'll be like, well, how do I play Mercy in these lobbies? And suddenly, you're back down to where you were before.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Overwatch with the new update is starting to implement features where it's like on a hero by hero basis now. It's getting more
Oh, really?
granular. Yeah, they have like these different. I don't know if it affects like your ranking per hero, but I do
Oh,
know
wait, you
there's
mean like how you
stats per
can?
hero now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Actually, I have seen that where it's like,
Yeah, there's some additional stuff where it's
yeah,
like on a you can see how good someone is on a specific hero, like with a lot more
hmm
information. So more ways to BM people.
you can spot the one
Um,
tricks when they're not playing their one trick.
yeah, well, they Overwatch actually added a lot of things to stop people from BMing because like they removed the borders. Like you know how players used to have like, oh, you're level like 400 and they would have a special border.
Yeah.
Uh, and not gonna lie, I did this too in the back when I was playing comp. Like you get a little salty and you're like, dude, you're level 600 and you're in silver and you're like telling us to be bad or whatever. So like you make fun of people. You're like, you're literally playing gold and you've played this game. You have 500 levels. You played this game for like 400,000 hours. Like, how are you this bad?
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I get it, but again, they are kind of nerfing, not like as in, they're like actually like nerfing as in the foam, the game a little bit by being like, okay, well, people would BM you if you could see stats, so let's hide those, let's hide this, let's hide that, so people don't feel bad. Like, let's
Hmm.
change how ranks work so that everyone's a little bit higher than gold, so they don't feel bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. I would never want the job to be the guy who has to balance competitive anything for video games. It seems
Yeah.
like an
Rank systems
impossible,
are hard.
thankless job. It is a
Yeah.
You'll never win, and it is an Herculean task. You'll never be able to pass it.
Yeah, I think it's like both people that make rank systems and people that work on anti cheat have it really rough, especially if they're like public facing.
Yeah, and anti cheat too is like you go third party. Well, it's sus. We don't like easy anti cheat. Oh, well,
Hmm.
you go your own thing. Well, it's not good enough. Like it's like Tarkov. Like it doesn't, or I don't even know if Tarkov has any anti cheat apparent, but whatever they use, it's not enough.
Hmm.
But then people are like, well, we don't want ring level anti cheat, whereas like we don't want like these more intrusive anti cheats, but at the same time, we don't want cheaters. It's just like you can't win, you know?
Yeah, I think the problem with anti cheat is that there will always inevitably be cheaters because it's one company trying to fix a problem versus essentially the entire cheater community trying to counter it. And I also think that honestly, you'll as much as people hate to hear it, or like the stuff that like Valorant has going on, where it's like a kernel level anti cheat, that's probably the closest we're ever going to get to like an ultimate solution to it. So like as long as we're not like doing that, you can probably expect to have cheaters in your game, like on a
So
pretty
sorry,
regular
I'm
basis.
my headphones are I'm getting a phone call and it just disconnected my headphones, so I missed everything you just said,
Oh, sad.
and I still can't hear you for some reason.
Hmm.
Uh, that's on my end. You know what? This will be the mysterious end of the podcast where I literally can't hear you.
Okay.
Um, I've been Matt,
Bye.
aka Matt Fun Dude.
I'm
I
gonna
don't. I'm
talk at the
assuming
exact
James.
same
All right,
time as
now
Matt because he can't
we're
hear me.
talking. I think we're talking over each other. I
Yeah.
can't hear him. Okay, James, you can say whatever you want now, and I'll never hear it.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
And
Yeah.
we'll end.
Matt smells
Sorry,
like
we're gonna end it
farts.
on whatever James says right now.
Matt smells like big fat farts and pee.
The end.